Today, we will discuss about the total milk ration or TMR. In short, it is called as TMR, which is very popularly used nowadays in the cattle to feed them with optimum forage and also the concentrates in a proper format. So, what's a TMR? Means it is the complete mix of all the feed ingredients. For example, may also contain a forage or a grain or bypass product. Then protein feeds, minerals and vitamins. So apart from this one, some feed additives or yeast cultures are also there. Then why we need to use the total milk ration? That is number one, to increase the milk production of the cattle. The number two is to decrease total feed cost, because feed cost is about 60% of total feed cost or total production of a milk per liter is 60%. Then to improve the health of the animal probability, then also the better production and reproduction parameters need to be maintained, and to ability to feed the especially that are hard to feed individually and fed in small amounts, so that the individual animals cannot be fed by the weighing etc in different scales. Hence it is a mass feeding program. Then this deliver consist ration to cow every day. How much quantity of the total milk ration to be given every day. So how to do the total milk ration equation? Then formulated ration, for example, is a concentrate. Then it also contains different feed ingredients. Then once again it is divided into milk production and cow health. That's the output of the formulated ration. Then one need to get the optimum benefit of the different feeds in terms of the milk and cow health also. Then ration formulation is a technique in which the different nutrient requirements are met by different type of the animal. Then the cow nutrients do contain fiber, protein, energy and minerals as usual. And the ration is about lactation. Suppose the animal is yielding 35 kg of the milk per day, then the hay will be put to the extent of 3.6 kg per day per cow. Then corn silage to the extent of the 35% of the dry matter based on the 35% of the DM. Then haylage, or instead the silage or haylage, both are almost same. And the the cotton seed for the requirement of the proteins. Then apart from this one, a special protein mix can also be added to the total milk ration, what we are intended to say here. Then apart from this one, the dry matter analysis should be wet food intake total is 46.2, whereas the dry matter percent on the ration it is 48.7. So total dry matter intake it is becoming 22.5 kg per day. Whereas the CP 16.5, NDF fiber 34, then NDF from forage is 23.8 and fat is 0.3 and total digestible nutrient is up to 70.3. So apart from this one, the lactation milk, that's milk, this calorie plus calories per kg is 1.63. Then calcium 0.93, phosphorus 0.39, magnesium 0.38, potassium 1.33, salt it is equal to 0.46, then iodine is 1.41, 51, selenium 0.34, vitamin A that is 203437 international units per day, and vitamin E also is 990 units. So the formulating the ration is the technique in which the milk production, then day of milk production, then dry matter intake. All this will take plays the important role. Then minimize variation in the group. Then group cows that are similar in milk production and dry matter intake are always important. Then how the cows are grouped to feed the different rations for making the total milk ration is lactating cow groups or fresh cow. Then it is 1 to 21 days of milk. Fresh cow means if it is a cow just cowed from 1 to 21 days. Whereas the first lactation cows, then the some of the cows are very high yielding or little older cows which yield about 21 to 180 days in milk. So this is the little range. So mid lactation or older cows 180 to 25 days of milk. So these are classified in different categories. Then late lactation, some older cows means they are about to dry. Then these cows to be categorized as late lactation cows. Then they are older than 250 days in milk to dry of usually 210 or 210 days are the optimum, but sometimes if they have not conceived in time, then it goes as high as 250 days. So the once again the cow groupings, usually the fresh or cow which is just cowed and a heifer. Then low dry matter intake, dry forage just through 2 to 3 kgs per cow per day is enough. Whereas the first lactation cows, that is smaller cows or tiny breeds of the cows, then they do also contain low dry matter intake because the rumen size is less and slower to reach peak milk production and the dry matter intake. Then there will be persistent milk production and the dry matter intake. So some cows are very high yielders or sometimes the older cows. In terms of milk yield, that's all. 21 to 180 days of the milk. Then these are little larger or bigger cows. Reach peak milk production more than 40 kg per day of 45 days in milk and reach peak dry matter intake, that's 25 to 30 kg per day by 60 days in milk. So this is another thing how the cows need to be bred. Then the mid lactation or older cows are also classified as 180 to 250 days of milk, and sometimes the animals will also be pregnant and lower dry matter intake and milk production than high production group. Then late lactation is always 250 days or more, or sometimes they are not able to consume, may due to many reasons, and not dried off. Then avoid over conditioning of such cows. Then the high forage and with medium energy ration is always better. So here you can see the week of lactation starting from day 1 to day 46. Then the red line indicates the dry matter intake, especially in case of primiparous cows, in the red matter. Whereas the blue line, this use the blue line which notes the dry matter intake of the multiparous cows. So this is the dry matter intake per kg per day here. So it go on increasing. Suppose so as the lactation weeks, first week, fourth week, seventh week, and the 46th week. So what happens is initially the dry matter intake drastically it increases up to 25 kgs per day. Then it remains stable for a certain time and slowly it get reduced at the end of the 46. Whereas in case of heifer, it is little bit fluctuating, and the maximum dry matter intake may be 15 kg or 15 to 20 kg, and it will stand there is itself. So this is the difference between a heifer and the primiparous animal or primiparous or multiparous animal. Then cow grouping for TMR, dry cow groups. So these are far off dry cows, 220 or 260 days pregnant. Then high forage total milk ration is required to these cows. Then close up pre-flesh cows, also the another thing. Then sometimes these are low dry matter intake 10 kg per day, which this contains the nutrient contains 3 kg gain, then 2 to 3 kg good quality forage, then apart from this one minerals, feed additives and vitamins. So here the feeding objectives and the feed formulation, usually it should be hay should be 3 points. Suppose the cow is milking to the extent of 35 per kg per day, then hay should be 3.6, corn silage is 9.7, then haylage 18.2, then corn itself or the maize etc., then they will be little bit more. So the all the other they contain the different type of the proteins, and the ration mixing is done for the requirement of the cow, and it is put like a bun in front of every cow. Then the consistency of this feed, total milk ration feeding goal, it is the same amount of the mix, but the same time every day, same time, that is the main goal of the total milk ration, the same amount of the same mix at the same time every day. So the mixing the TMR also requires certain machineries and dry matter of the feeds and feed amounts. Then order of ingredient addition. Then mixer capacity. Then also the mixer time. Usually, the large dairy cattle farms do always use the very big machineries like this thing to prepare the total milk ration which is required to the entire herd by classifying them as the different categories as explained earlier. Then, apart from this one, the dry matter intake of the food, especially it is 100 minus percent moisture is equal to percent dry matter. So this is the simplest way of calculating the dry matter. 100 minus percent moisture. Suppose it's a 70% moisture, then the dry matter will be 30%. Whereas if it is having low moisture, it's 10%, maximum it can be made as 15%, then 100 minus 50, 15% is 85% dry matter. So nutrients are contained in dry matter. Ration formulated on dry matter basis always means here the water content is subtracted from the total quantity that is fed. Hence, for the better calculation. Hence, the nutrients are contained in dry matter only. Then ration formulation on dry matter, cows consume the dry matter in they are calculated. Then the TMR ingredients are as fed the DM errors result in over or under feeding. Both are also possible. Hence, one need to be little bit careful and calculative in doing the dry matter thing. Then the also check the dry matter content of the forage very importantly, because the dry matter content of the this compound feed or concentrate is very less. Then determine the dry matter of the forage at least once per week. Then they adjust the amount of the forage in total milk ration when the dry matter reaches more than 2% units. So always every week the dry matter content of the forage should be calculated and adjust the rations in such a way that the dry matter changes should not be more than 2% units. Then the common TMR mixing errors. Always there is a error that scale not accurately weighing. There is a scale here or whatever the scale part we are used, and feeder not accurated by weighing feeding amounts. Both are possible. Then another thing is the total milk ration, and we need to add different ingredients by prior calculation like the grains and proteins. Then small inclusion feeds like the minerals, vitamins, feed additives, then forage, it may be chopped or sometimes the ensilage forage or haylage. Then maximum 200 kg long stem in 4,500 kg TMR mix, about 2 kg per cow per day. It can be done and everything has to be chopped before adding. Then TMR mixing is adding ingredients. Then here we can see that there are varieties of the screw mixtures are there. Then the long dry forage, grains and proteins, and small inclusion feeds, minerals, vitamins, feed additives. Then apart from this one, and silage forages. Then common TMR mixing errors are always there. Then always we have to have a cutter, mixer, then feeder. So this type of the mixer etc. should never be overfilled, which result in incomplete mixing, starting up of the feeds and cows not getting the balanced ration. So if you fill it too much, then TMR mixing capacity should not be exceeded. It's always sometimes over capacitor. 0.2 to 0.25 kg per cubic meter is the optimum thing, and average is 0.2 to per kg per cubic meter. So another thing is mistake is TMR mixer capacity per cow. So with 10% long dry forage, zero point 0.2 cubic meters per cow should be given. Then no dry long forage to the extent of 0.14 cubic meters per cow. So the another thing is the best mixing capacity is 70 to 80% of maximum. That's it cannot be achieved to the extent of 100% because even we use a better mixer also, it's impossible to go up to the 100%. That's the maximum. Then continuation of the common TMR errors, then sometimes the incorrect mixing time is also there. So this is a general guide that 3 to 5 minutes after last ingredient is added, then it happens the as if it is not doing well, then it becomes the incomplete mixing. Then sometimes over mixing is also a possibility, which reduces the particle size and also the quantity of the feed more. And there are certain key points which are making the TMR good for feeding the cattle. So always the fixed ration, especially it should be maintain a rumen mat. Mat means it is a layer of the feed which stimulate rumen contractions. Then maintain muscle tone and stimulate cud chewy. Then also the buffer the rumen. That is the rumen mat has to be maintained. Then ration physical form is optimize rumen fermentation, then stimulate appetite, maximum production of the volatile fatty acids, and also the microbial protein. So these are the keys to for making total milk ration and feeding it to the cattle. Then ration physical form, physical characteristics of the ration that can greatly influence the performance, like physical characteristics affected by the total amount of the forage which is put here, which is containing in the total milk ration, and type of the forage and low level of non-degradable fibers NDF, then the moisture of the ration, then length and the shape particles. Then apart from this one, important thing is the total milk ration mixing time when we are going to mix it. So these are all the physical forms of the TMR. So here you can see that the cows are being fed with the TMR, and uh, it is not the TMR should not be wasted by the cows, as there is a chance that they may not like or it may not be palatable for them. Then here these are all the CUs in which we can weigh the different ingredients to feed the different cows using the different trays. Then apart from this one, the dry matter of every ingredient need to be checked before it is fed to the cattle. Then the total milk ration particle size recommendation is there should be a sieve with 3 boxes or 4 boxes. Then upper sieve should be 6 to 8%, and 4 box type of the particle size, making it is 6 to 10, and middle sieve more than 50, or in case of 4 box system is it is in the range of 30 to 50, and lower sieve 30 to 50. Then bottom pan less than 40 and more than 20. Then TMR particle size is looking like this. The leaf blades with higher size will always be reduced to the lesser one. Then apart from this one, the over mixing, for example, the top layer will be actually it should be long fibers, then 4 to 5%, but our goal should be 6 to 8% usually. The middle layer of the total milk ration will be 39%, and it should be 40 to 50%. Then bottom it is 56.5% actually, but the goal should be less than 50% always bottom. Then too fine over mixing, the symptoms will there will be the milk production, there will be a drastic reduction. Then milk fat, there will be once again decrease. Then consistency, loose manure is also a thing, and lack of cut chewing and increase free choice salt or buffer consumption. Then eating, bedding, wood, etc. Means if you make it too fine over mixing. Then variable dry matter intake, sometimes the late lactation displaced abomasums. Then off feed the cows. Then sometimes it's also leading to the lameness. Then TMR evaluation, whenever it is too fine, check mix time, decrease if necessary. Then dry long forage is very low in moisture, brittle, and chops easily, which will reduce the mixing time. Then order of mixing should be add dry long forages last, whereas not enough forage in the diet, and check about this particular thing always. Then always correct the ration formulation. Then forage moisture should be weighed properly, like dry matter content of the forage decreases, less forage dry matter is being fed. Then the symptoms of undermixing is clumping up of the ingredients at especially in case of hay or haylage, they get clumped. And cows short feedings and slug feed grain. They start picking up the grains and leave the dry matter. Then inconsistent loose manure will also be there, or the dung will be loose. Then sometimes the cows go off feed because of the indigestibility. Then there will be variable dry matter intake or the fluctuation. Then low fat syndrome is also another possibility of undermixing. Then sometimes because of the laminitis, there may be the lameness also. So as usual, undermixing is too coarse or brittle in nature, then we can tell it like actual top long fiber layer is it is 15.4%, but it should be reduced to the extent of 6 to 8%, whereas the middle is 15 55.5, but the goal also is reached to the extent of 40 to 50%, and it has to be reduced actually to the extent of minimum 5%. Then the bottom level always it consists of the 29.1%, whereas it should be always less than 50%, and this parameter will make us to calculate the total mixing ration is good or not. Then how to evaluate whether it's a too coarse, too brittle, or sometimes the chopped pieces are very small or very big. So check mix time, increase if not over 6 minutes then dry forages over 15% moisture don't mix well, because if they are not chopped, because they are containing the moisture to the extent of 85% or 80% sometimes. So we need to chop them, little bit dry them, then add it to the TMR ratio. Then check wear on mixture knives, change if worn, and more knives if needed for the proper cutting up of the powder. Then mix order, add dry coarse forage earlier as possible. Then too much long coarse forage in mixer. Then they may require the tub grinding and will dry forage and all dry forages if it is very coarse. So this stub grinding is also another technology which reduces the coarseness of the food to the less, or also to maintain the proper requirement particle size. How many times the TMR has to be done? It's the common question. Here, twice per day. The sign says twice per day. Once per day is also okay whenever there is cool weather is there. And very good feed pushing is there in the form of the protein, maybe some cakes or very green powder. Whereas the it also depends minimum benefit to more than twice per day. Minimal benefit to have more than twice a day. So here you can see that feed bunk management evaluating the TMR mix. So here the uniform TMR distribution should be there to all the cows. Like here some cows there is ration is there, to other cows it is not available. Hence it is not recommended. Then good feed bunk management is always like cows have to access feed at least 18 to 20 hours. So this is a big period because they should maintain their entire time in consuming only. So cows have adequate bunk space, or suppose a cow A 45 to 60 centimeter per milk per cow. So per kg of the centimeters. So adequate bunk space should be there from the place where the animal is. 60 to 90 centimeter dry and transition of the cows. And last is the 45 centimeter for it is heifers. A bund should be put starting from the ground to the top. Then cows is beds of smooth surface. If the barn is having smooth surface and they will try to eat everything. Though the good feed bunk management is a process by which we need to push the feed at least 5 times per day if TMR is fed only once per day. But sometimes the cows may not be able to reach the feed and they cannot eat it at all. So this also to be taken into the consideration. So the whenever the animal is access to the feed, then it should not be more than 70 centimeters. See here, the cow is stretching its neck to eat and it is going far away and away. Then good feed bunk management, 24 hours refusal feed to be less than 3% of the feed TMR. Then refusers should look like original TMR, even the refusers. Then especially to achieve the good fielding in a cow, you need to unmix the TMR mix. Once again, unmix the TMR mix here like this. The cow selectively is trying to grasp some grains, which is or sometimes the material which is tasty to it. So if you do not mix it properly, this may also happen. Here you can see that the cow is trying to pick up some grains which is present in the food. Then good feed bunk management is always it's an art, and don't give cows to the opportunity to sort feed, or sometimes we push the feed often, and we need to chop the feeds properly. Then adequate moisture in the ration is very much must. Then sorting results in symptoms common to both under and over mixing up of the TMR. We have already learned what happens if we under mix it or over mix it. Then the feed intake need to be calculated every day. What is the feed consumed by a cow every day? If not exactly, at least to the extent of the best nearest value. Then we need to have a weekly feeding record like the TMR feed, how much, the time of feed, way back in kgs and number of cows, etc. And ultimately it need to be signed by the farm manager. Then feed intake per cow amounts TMR is equal to formulated ration. So then when amounts not equal, check forage moisture, check number of cows fed TMR mix, reformulate the ration. Then daily as feed intake as high variation. So if you can see this particular chart, it ranges from 0 to 5 to 85 days, or about nearly 3 months. A 5 days less to the 3 months. Then intake in the pounds, you can start from 80 to 140. So here the first one with black is very high variation, and it is the red one is low variation in the feed mix. So hence we need to minimize the variation just like the red line here. So the as the day throughout their day of just this lactation, it should be kept very constant always. Then TMR record should be properly managed with date, feeder name, then actual total amount of the ration mixed and fed per pen or group, then way back amount from pen after the feeding is over, and then number of animals in pen per group also, then time of the feeding. All this need to be recorded while proper managing of the TMR ratio. Then adjusting the TMR feed ingredients need to be done by up and down procedures. So we cannot suddenly adjust it, but we can adjust it to the extent of 3 kg maximum per K per cow. Then 8% of the total body weight only it is only allowed, or else it may result in some problem. So here a lot of forages need to be stored as unspoiled every day. Then this every day, if you are going to have the total milk ration, then we need to always concentrate on preparation of the forages. Then forage management, we can also bunker or file can also be done. Then if you want to make it as smooth surface, then that can also be mechanized or machinized. Then smooth faces maximum dry matter and nutrient deviation within a silo, and you can see the left side is LDF 44.5%, then the other thing 41.2%, 36.6%, 20% variation in NDF from top to bottom is always required. Then good face management and top cover is the most required, especially in case of the TMR. Then silage management should always be proper, especially in case of TMR, because the TMR also contains the silage. Then keep face of pile smooth and straight. Then feed minimum of 15 centimeter of face daily. Then remove no more than 1 meter top cover at a time. Then apart from this one, the remove, then discard moldy or rotten silage because they may always cause the mycotoxicology. So inform technical expert for the change. If you want to do it suddenly, don't make it your own and get the advice of a proper expert. Then in summary, what the total milk ration is correctly formulated and fed as a TMR. As the name indicates, it is a ration which is given to get the highest quantity of the milk and production. So the another thing is minimize feed cost, then optimize cow health and also the production. Then some pattern are also there to TMR feeding, then correctly formulated ration we has to be done. How to balance the wet matter, dry matter, the forage, then also the cage. Should be very balancedly calculated by the actual milk yield of the animal, body weight, etc. Then always the feed intake per day need to be monitored, and sometimes if the feed intake reduces drastically, then milk production also drastically goes down. So you should have a very good food data chart or recording. So there should be always a communication between the feeder or the person who feeds the cattle, then the nutrition who is present in the farm, nutritionist, and the dairy manager who looks overall dairy management, especially in the developed countries. Whereas in our country, most of the farmers are marginal farmers or poor farmers. So this is the thing how a TMR is going to be prepared, and how the different ingredients, maybe a maize or the silage or he, etc. Then we, so there is no stop is there, and we have to go and feed the cows. And thank you everyone. Have a good day. Then bye.